We took stories from similar to this fellow's as well. He was in jail for debt. He owed money to someone, and that someone went and complained to the police. Maybe they were a friend of the police, or maybe the police didn't like this guy, but he had also been in jail for a couple of months. Again, there's no law in Haiti that allows you to go to prison for debt. But the problem is, once you go into the jail, it's difficult to get out because there's no judges getting paid, or there's no courtrooms for you to go and appear where it can be decided what's going on. So in the case of these two individuals, the girl and the 20-year-old man, we were able to convince the commissaire to immediately release them. There was a half a day of paperwork that was involved in that, but it was, that we left 210 other people behind us in the prison. We had an interview with the commissaire of Port-au-Prince. Now he's a much more, as commissaires go, a much more powerful person because his department includes the capital city of Port-au-Prince, which is just rife with huge problems in the justice system. I was convinced through our interview with him that there are many good people in the Haitian justice system that have been appointed by the President Preval who are trying to come to grips with these kinds of problems in the justice system, but they are up against the absence of resources. They're up against judges who have been appointed by the illegal regime that came into power after 2004 who are very inclined to against anyone poor or anyone of the Lavalas political movement of President Aristide. But he also described to us in some detail the difficulty that the government and the justice system has in bringing the actions of the Haitian National Police under control. The police operate outside the law, don't like to be accountable to the law. They don't like to be accountable to the Justice Department officials like this official in Port-au-Prince. His name is Claude Gasson. And he's actually in a lot of hot water today in Haiti after our departure, as we continue to read the news, that he's coming under a lot of fire by the elite and by the leaders of the Haitian National Police because he's actually trying to grapple with the injustices in the police, in the Justice Department, and also the criminal conduct of some of Haiti's wealthy businessmen. And so that was his description. He said, we don't know what's going on out there. We're dealing with the consequences of the actions of the Haitian National Police, but we don't control their action. We tell them that you can't arrest people and simply throw them in jail. You have to have a warrant, but they don't get warrants. We try to find out who they put in prison and why, and that's difficult to do. So it was a pretty tough situation he was describing. There's 4,000 prisoners in Haiti, and about 200 or 300 of those are political prisoners who date from the 2 years following this February 2004 overthrow of the government. And even though Commissaire Gasson in Port-au-Prince, and it may be in other areas of the country as well, are trying to put into place a program to accelerate the release of prisoners who shouldn't be in prison. Claude Gasson told us that in his estimation, 80% of those 4,000 prisoners in Haiti's prisons shouldn't be there. They're either there for false charges, they're there for charges that don't exist in law, like the few I mentioned to you earlier. So this is a huge, huge problem and a very, very common source of complaint by the Haitian people themselves. And I mentioned the problems of the political prisoners. In the center of the photo is a fellow who spent 2.5 years in prison following the coup of 2004. Finally, when he got to appear before a judge, it was determined there was no reason to hold him in jail, but that's how long it took for him to get out. And this fellow had been in jail for 2 years. He was released by a judge, but they didn't let him out because right away the police slapped another charge on him for an alleged murder dating back a year before he had been put in prison the first time. So we were there we were observing his political trial in Port-au-Prince. We weren't able to stay for the whole trial, unfortunately, because it helps to have international observers there to watch the proceedings, and so that the justice system feels the pressure of international opinion watching what they're doing or not doing. Now, another aspect of the judicial and police system in Haiti is the ongoing threat of political repression. This is a street protest against poverty that took place in Port-au-Prince. We happened upon it. We heard it coming. We didn't know it was taking place. It was a couple hundred people that were protesting through the streets of Port-au-Prince, and so they're calling for things like improvements in the minimum wage, more government money for health care. They want compensation for people that suffered following the 2004 coup d'etat, better health care. But surrounding them was a very heavy police presence. There were about 6 vehicles of the Haitian National Police like this. They're very heavily armed, wearing bulletproof vests, shotguns. There's one of them standing back there. We were a bit nervous taking photos. Gee, I've seen times when people holding guns like that don't like people taking photos of them and lift the gun and shoot it. But there's not that kind of repression happening in the streets of Port-au-Prince today. Since the election of President René Préval in 2006, there has been a lessening of the violent actions by the Haitian National Police, which is what you see here. There have been continued United Nations incursions into the poor neighborhoods, and part of the justification used by the United Nations armed actions is that there is a climate of lawlessness in Haiti and the rise of criminal gangs. That's undoubtedly true, that there is a rise in lawlessness, but of course that's a result of the breakdown of the structure of the society and of the capacity of the government to provide even the most minimal services to the population. So it's hardly an excuse for the violent conduct of the United Nations. But there is a kind of a message that's gone out to the Haitian National Police that they can't conduct themselves the way they had in the 2 years following the coup. If you remember, I mentioned 4,000 deaths in Port-au-Prince in those 2 years, so we're not seeing that. But this is a reminder of the possibility of the return of those kind of days. Nothing fundamentally has changed from those 2 years following the coup. And the government of René Préval, which is an elected government, which is popularly chosen by the people, is nonetheless a government that's greatly constrained in what it can do. This is the national legislature of Haiti. René Préval was elected by a strong majority of the Haitian people in February 2006. The legislature election that followed it 2 months later has a much lower rate of participation in the vote, and so the composition of the legislators in the parliament is much more heavily tilted towards business, conservative, the elite in Haiti, and that's another factor that the government of Préval is dealing with. This is a government that's in between a rock and a hard place. It's got a foreign occupation force on its hand. It doesn't have any money to provide the services that are required by the population. If a freely elected government of Jean-Bertrand Aristide could be overthrown in a foreign coup and then an illegal regime imposed following that, but what does that say about the capacity of this government today to be able to act freely? Clearly it can't. It's under huge constraints in what it can do. But even in that framework, there was a growing criticism of the Haitian people of the choices that the government of René Préval is making in its economic and social programs. These were union leaders of the state telecommunication company in Haiti, who we met with. Half of their members are losing their jobs because the Préval government has embarked on a privatization of most of the remaining public enterprises in Haiti, including the telephone company, which has most of it's already been privatized and half the workforce has been laid off. But there are also plans afoot to privatize the state electrical company, the airports, the customs services, pretty much anything that's moving that a dollar can be made from. And this is causing great concern, not only among Haitians, but among Haitians abroad and international institutions abroad that are favorable to the government of Préval, but are asking about these very serious choices that are being made by Préval. So we are going to see more of these kinds of protests in Haiti because the people will not put up with the conditions of poverty and of a dysfunctional justice system that puts their sons and daughters in jail, into a kind of a black hole that has a road system that can't sustain any kind of economic development, and so on and so on. And this is Levinsky Pierre-Antoine, he disappeared on August 12th. He was serving as a guide and an advisor to our delegation. He's a very well-known political rights figure in Haiti. He lived for 2 years in exile following the February 2004 coup. This is a very serious development that's taken place in Haiti now, his disappearance on August 12th. There's been no word from alleged kidnappers now for 4 weeks. There's every reason to think that the worst has happened to him. And of course this sends out a very dark signal to the Haitian population that this is what can happen to you if you choose to speak out as eloquently as Levinsky Pierre-Antoine was doing. He leads a political organization called the September 30th Foundation that's been campaigning for the release of the prisoners in jail who are unjustly held. He's been very outspoken. He and his foundation have been very outspoken about the foreign United Nations military and political presence in Haiti. They want the foreign occupation out of Haiti. So this is a very serious blow to Haiti's democratic opening that began in February 2006.